Hey, the Hurtber here. We are trying something new today with a video on an enemy rather than an ally. Today, the Hurtber will tell you how to accurately beat Lygus and his Katalzane algebraic expressions in MOC, and I'll also be talking a bit about him in the new game mode, but that's not the priority. This was also the most liked suggestion in my latest community post, and if you have any other video suggestions, let me know below. If people like these, I will be doing videos for new enemies starting from 3.7 onwards. So like and sub for more, and real quick, here is today's sponsor. If you're looking for some pulls and you have cash spare, well, LD Shop may be able to help you out. The HSR section for LD Shop uses UID for safety, so no account information, they aren't logging into your account. I just plop in my server here and my UID, and I choose the bundle I want. These packs are discounted by 13% minimum versus in-game prices and can go up to 25%. After finishing my payment, I can log into my account just after, and voila, my Express Pass is here already. If you want more discounts, users that register with my link get a 15% coupon as well as a 5% coupon, which can save up to $50. So check it out with my link in the description. There's also a little bonus for those that spend $80 in a month who get an extra Express Pass sent your way. Anyways, stay safe and back to the video. So Lygus is first of all weak to physical, ice, and wind, meaning your res multiplier with these elements starts at a base of 1. Fire, lightning, quantum, and imaginary, however, do not suffer greatly. These elements will only have to face a 20% damage resistance or a res multiplier of 0.8. He also has a very high speed of 211, alongside an OK toughness value of 200. Now, as for the real problem, HP. In version 3.5's MOC, Lygus has a disgusting HP of nearly 12 million, but note that he is not a multi-phase boss, rather he just has multiple HP bars. In Anomaly Arbitration, it gets even higher as it's the ultimate endgame. However, in MOC, this high HP amount is mostly to create a mechanic check. Rather than just slam dunking him, players will have to engage with his mode switches that will permanently amplify your damage versus him, as well as give you a whole lot of free ultimates and turns. I really like his design, to be honest. He can help out so many teams and archetypes because his fight benefits are universal. Though, of course, he does benefit a few teams more than others, but more on that later. So onto mechanics, and the core mechanic is that Lygus has two modes he will swap between: Evolution Mode and Disputation Mode. He will start the fight in Evolution Mode, and under his health bar, you can see this meter with a total of 4 stacks. When this is filled up, he will swap to Disputation Mode, which instead has a meter of 10 stacks. These two meters are charged in different ways. When he swaps mode, different abilities are unlocked for Lygus, but also different bonuses for your team, and he will also get a permanent 50% vulnerability debuff. Thus, at 2 swaps in a vacuum, you're already doubling your whole team's damage versus him permanently. Our goal in this fight is to make him swap as much as possible, but we can kill him before that too. So first, Evolution Mode. When Lygus acts in Evolution Mode, he has a few different abilities he can use. First, he has a blast attack with no additional effects. Then he has a bounce attack with also no additional effects. And then we have a non-attacking ability where he grants potential realization to an enemy and causes them to immediately act. This effect heals them up and makes them deal more damage. The most important ability, however, is this final one. He will deal some damage to one of your party members at random, but then advance them immediately and dispel any CC. He then applies Antinomy. Your ult will be activated, and using it will reduce your HP by 50% of its maximum amount, but it will be mitigated by shields and cannot kill you. Furthermore, when the effect ends, if you didn't ult, your energy will be taken away. Now, he activates ults, but takes away energy. What this means is non-energy based ultimate characters like Fei Xiao will retain their ult charge even if they didn't ult during Antinomy. By the way, a tip for this section is that you can pause the game in several ways to see who will get pushed up by Lygus, and then to decide if you're going to ult or not. Some characters don't want to ult before their turn, but some do, and so clicking on the action order and pausing the game can give you that moment to decide. So those are his moves, but what about this thing in the action order? Well, during this mode, the mythical life evolution system will appear in the action order. This happens at 42 and then 100 action value from when the mode starts. So at the start of the fight, it will be at 42, but if you swap to Disputation and then back to Evolution, its AV is reset to 42 from when this mode swap occurred. Anyway, for the very first system turn at 42 action value, this is happening before most things in the game with an effective starting speed of 238. For reference, Lygus' first normal turn at 211.2 speed will happen just after at around 47 action value. When this system takes a turn, Lygus will summon 2 Titankins, which are these Fury warrior enemies. Now, how do we swap to the other mode? We want that permanent vulnerability, right? The only way for nearly every team in the game is through this evolution system acting, because when a Titankin is summoned, it will contribute 1 point of charge to our 4-point requirement. So at 100 AV, he is guaranteed to transform. The other way is through summoning Memo Sprites. Now the weird thing is we have 2 units with permanent Memo Sprites in normal situation, RMC and Hyacinth. We have 1 unit that wants to really keep their Memo Sprite up all the time but can lose it, and suffers if so. That's Aglaya. And then we have 2 units that will continuously summon and disappear their Memo Sprites, those being Castris and Evernight. Out of all the units in the game, we only have Remembrance units that can interact with this evolution system outside of just waiting for 100 action value. And out of all of these Remembrance units, only Castris and Evernight can reliably resummon their Memo Sprites. Because even though it says summon Mem on skill for RMC, you can't summon Mem if they're already on the field. Maybe there are ways to let your cute little friends die for the sake of swapping modes faster, but that's cruel and would require a low HP build as well as great optimization. Now, swapping modes will happen eventually, so it just means in 100 AV, every evolution mode, you will get that swap. And so eventually in a fight, provided you sustain correctly and quickly beat Disputation mode, you will just have so much free vulnerability that you can clear Lygus in a decent amount of cycles. So once 4 points are required, it is now Disputation mode time. When he swaps to Disputation, no attack will directly happen, but he will take a turn instantly on swapping to this mode. On top of that, Black Tide enemies will continuously appear on the field, sort of like Pure Fiction, and so when you kill one, another will appear in its place. This is unlike Evolution mode, where enemies were only spawned based on the action order evolution system. So let's check out his new attacks. He still has that blast attack from before, it's just slightly more powerful. And he also upgrades his bounce attack, but just in multiplier value. Now, instead of that ability where he grants an advance to an ally of his and boosts their damage, he instead has a passive buff that applies to all of the enemies on the field barring himself. These enemy units will get Storm Ride and Retribution of Law. Storm Ride makes enemies immediately take action after their turn ends. Essentially, double action once a turn, but this will be dispelled if they are broken. Retribution of Law means they lose 20% of their max HP after every action. Therefore, combining both means yes, the enemies may attack you a ton, but they also will be at 60% of their normal max HP after their first turn. For reference, in this current MOC post-HP reduction, that's about 170 to 200k HP to deal with, not bad. Finally, that OP Advance and Ultimate Regeneration move from before? Well, in the Disputation mode, this will instead happen to 2 targets. So rather than just your DPS, you can now get your DPS and supports ultimate maxed, on top of having them act immediately. Again though, they do get that antinomy effect, which means a lot of damage taken if they do activate their ults. With the new mode also comes a new action order mechanic. We instead have the Cool Destruction Theorem, and when this takes action, we don't get help to the charging mechanic, but rather Lygus' ultimate move gets enhanced. It first takes action at 24 AV post mode swap, and then I believe every subsequent action will happen at 48 AV after the last. You do not want this to act, but once or twice is okay, and you want to swap back ASAP. So how do we do that? Charge points will be accumulated in Disputation mode from your allies dying, enemies dying, or Memo Sprites disappearing. So here we have a DPS check where we want to clear these waves of mobs as soon as possible. Luckily, he does give us ultimates to do so, so if it does land on an AoE DPS, you can at least guarantee a nice start. Everyone can interact with this mechanic, but again, if you kill your Memo Sprites whilst also killing enemies, you can clear slightly faster. When he reaches 10 stacks, he will swap back to Evolution mode, and instead of taking an immediate turn like when swapping to Disputation, he will launch this massive ultimate ability, Query Prime Mover's Outcome. This deals an insane amount of damage, and has a unique property where it will in fact be distributed damage. Everyone takes the same amount of damage from Lygus split evenly, but it is of course mitigated by things like independent defense and damage reduction. Now remember, every time Cool Destruction Theorem acts, this ability will be buffed. So to avoid him one-shotting our whole team, we need to kill those Black Tide enemies quickly. And also, remember that this will usually happen based on your actions, as it mostly requires enemies dying. This means you might need to avoid one-shotting a wave if that action would mean you will get one-shot just after when Lygus acts. Now to summarize, and you can skip this if you just listen to all that. Lygus has a multitude of attacks but will keep on giving our allies free ults and advances at the cost of some HP. Evolution mode will have a few Titankin spawn in, it deals weaker damage, and it requires waiting to 100 AV to swap out or needs you to summon Memosprites. Disputation mode is much scarier, with repeated actions from enemies, constant enemies spawning, stronger Lygus damage, and that final big blast. But you do get more ults from Lygus, and you also have a much more universal mechanic where you just have to beat a DPS check. Every time he swaps, he gets a permanent vulnerability effect which massively boosts your damage versus him. Swapping him enough times eventually leads to his death through pure buffing power, but you need to have a good sustain and good wave clearing damage to not get one shot in these mechanics. In Anomaly Arbitration, he gets a few changes. Not only does he have much more HP as it's designed to be a very difficult game mode, but this fight also has a few extra effects. You get to choose between one of 3 buffs like in non-MOC game modes, and he also gains some new passives. The most notable one is the Sunder mechanic, which requires you to bring a sustain unless you are insanely invested and or optimized. And you will need to bring a sustain that can also tank an even stronger Lygus than in MOC. The victory condition, however, is much longer than a half side of MOC, but again, the HP amount is obscene for most players, and so don't feel bad if you can't clear it. The strongest team to tackle Lygus will be the Evernight Castris dual DPS team. They are the only real consistent Memosprite resummoners, and so they can cause Evolution mode to swap to Disputation at 42 AV rather than 100 AV. This is an insane increase to the fight's normal swapping frequency, and thus the team gets more vulnerability than anyone else. Disputation mode also features a pure fiction-like setup, which means they are in their element as they are mostly focused on AoE damage. Not to mention that they will disappear their Memosprite, and so if they both clear a wave each, 4 enemies, and disappear their 1 Memosprite, that's a mode swap from their 2 big actions alone. And giving ults is amazing to most characters, but giving them to Castris and Evernight directly leads to extra charge for the mode swapping, as their ults will summon and eventually disappear their Memosprites, giving charge for either Lygus mode. And of course, those HP drains help a ton alongside their enemies attacking us 1,000 times. With Hyacinth and your HP stacking, you're not going to feel the pain anyway. Another very powerful team archetype is Finan teams. When he is in his Kezlana transformation, well, who can get ults other than him? This means once you exit his transformation, you can immediately ult again and continue smacking down Lygus. It is very strong. What's also nice is this big distributed damage actually helps us, at least in MOC. I mean, Finan will tank something normally meant for 4 or more characters. This will eventually result in his death. But his death during his ultimate just speeds up the finisher move. And since we get free ults, we instead go from attacking every fixed AV to instead acting, dying, finisher move, insta-ulting, and instantly acting again with more Scourge. We get a whole ton of actions and damage. Other than Evernight Castris being the most powerful team and Finan next, I think a bunch of teams will clear similarly. Teams with stronger AoE should do better than single target ones because of the disputation mode part of the fight, but at the same time, single target focused teams can also just brute force kill Lygus once he is swapped once or twice. We have seen this in a ton of Feixiao players where once he's swapped and given Feixiao a free 2 ultimates, she just slaps him silly. Ultimate-based carries like Saber and Acheron, or ones that gain big bonuses from ultimates like the Herta, will also enjoy the free ults. It is random, but resets can always help out, and support ults are not always bad to get. I think one thing that will help a lot is bringing a Remembrance character like Remembrance MC, but of course Hyacinth also works as she doubles as an amazing sustain here. The reason for that is Lygus' ultimate move is distributed damage, and bringing a Memosprite helps distribute that to another target. For example, a 10k damage attack to 4 targets is 2.5k each, but with a Memosprite that would drop to 2k. But supports that benefit from ultimate recovery can do really well, and Remembrance MC is one of them as we can get another Mem support up real soon. Tribute Dance likewise, but Sunday's Energy, War's Energy, Robin, these are all examples of great ultimates from supports. And of course, we need a strong sustain, but I think all top tier sustains can handle it. The only problem being Gallagher's Besotted takes a big hit in this fight due to Lygus being single target or 3 targets a lot of the time in evolution mode. And then you lose Besotted in disputation mode when you clear enemies. The free ults can help though. A good Fushuan can also tank Lygus from what I've seen as well, you just need to respect disputation mode's mechanics and not let him stack up and one-shot her. So combined with this fight's vulnerability and the MOC buff dealing true damage to enemies every cycle, this MOC actually has a better clear time on average than the previous MOC. I've seen so many clears of so many different DPS and teams, and there are many awesome showcases out there that show off the fight and how you can game its mechanics in cool ways. I hope this video helped, and let me know if you want more videos like these, maybe when they come out in MOC, but would you rather I make a video when they come out in the C server? Anyways, thanks for watching, thanks to my amazing YouTube members, and have a gooba day.